Something like the P Word conference exists because we know that Christian leaders want to love and shepherd their congregations well. And we know that when it comes to the issues of pornography and betrayal and unwanted problematic sexual behaviors, they often just don't know anything about it.
Yeah. So do you think that's the biggest thing that keeps churches from addressing it, is just kind of a deer in the headlights, like we don't know what to do to help people with this problem?
Yeah, I think a lack of education is a huge piece of that. I also think it's a messy, problematic topic.
I think another problem can be, even if a pastor is wanting to be bold and talk about it from the pulpit, the question of what do you do about it? Because I think a lot of people view unwanted sexual behavior as a spiritual problem, like a moral failure. And what we don't realize is that our arousal templates are set in our brains from young, especially when we have sexual trauma or are exposed to pornography, which as children is traumatic,
Right.
exposed to pornography. And that sets in motion a whole slew of brain and physiological and psychological issues that no spiritual solution alone can remedy, right? And so if we view this as a spiritual moral issue only, and then we're just going to see people continually fail morally in these areas,
Right.
right? And so then it's like, now what do we do?
But we're talking about a health issue, that if somebody comes and they're addicted to some other substance, we tend not to spiritualize that in quite the same way. We would
Right.
expect them to go for treatment. We would expect them to get specialized help with those things.
Yeah, but if a couple comes forward and say the husband has a pornography addiction, there's automatically going to be an assumption that the wife is not doing something
Hmm.
enough. Either she's not available enough sexually, or she's not sexy enough, or she's whatever. Usually there's
Hmm.
kind of a 50-50 view
Right.
of why this problem is happening, instead of recognizing that 95%, if not more, of the men who are viewing pornography started long before they ever got married. Most of them
Right.
started as preteens or younger.
Right.
And
And I think it was
so,
one of your presentations where I remember you sort of asking, like, would they ask that in any other circumstances? Would they say to
right.
the wife of an alcoholic, well, what are you making him to drink every day? We wouldn't do that. And so it's kind of absurd that that happens. And, my husband is a church leader. And so whilst I've had periods of being really angry about some of the stories that I hear about the way that the church is responding, I also have a huge amount of empathy and compassion for our church leaders. My husband leads a really small congregation, and within that small congregation, each of the people within it has they have a thing that they care about. Maybe no one person can know everything there is to know about all of the issues about that all of the people in all of the pews care about, right? And
Yeah.
so I have a huge amount of compassion for that. What I would rather see churches do is say, I don't know anything about that. Let me try and get you some help, than I would see them
Right.
sort of try to muddle through. And so something like the P Word conference is part of the solution to that. The people who choose to show up,
Yeah.
the conference is really aimed at church leaders and people involved in ministry within churches. And that we want to be part of the solution to that. We want to say, hey, we see you wanting to love and care for the people within your congregation, and what we want to offer is a practical pastoral response, more than just
I love it.
oh, that's bad, but here are some things you can do that can actually help.